Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Am Reading video for Friday, January 8th, 2021, on a Saturday. I am continuing my streak from 2020 about posting a day late. Stay tuned about whether I can get out of this or not, post on actual Friday in the future. That being said, I have a lot to talk about for my first books of 2021, or a decent amount anyway. So I won't be discussing any of the books that I read in 2020. I actually just made a Toni Morrison author's backlist video where I talk about a couple of the final books I read in December, so I can link to that down below. I also discuss her other books that I read. And I also have my literary newsletter for December linked down below. In my literary newsletter, I put in snippets of all of the Goodreads reviews of the books I read that month. I also highlight literary news that caught my fancy. I have a book TBR, a book pick, a book meme, all that good stuff down below. So the first book I read in January was a anticipated 2020 release, but hey, I got to it pretty quick in the new year. It's The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel, which I read on ebook, so there's the picture. This is her first and very anticipated novel since she published Station 11 a few years ago, which was very acclaimed. This one has also gotten really good reviews, and it is in contention right now for the BookTube Prize long list for this year. And since I just mentioned the BookTube Prize, the BookTube Prize is a prize dedicated for BookTube creators and also Bookstagram, and I think social media bookish people can all apply to be judges. And throughout the year we will be reading the best of literary fiction and nonfiction published in the US the year before. Right now we are helping iron out the long lists, and then in February we will be taking much of the rest of the year to whittle down those lists. So we will have various judging periods open throughout the year, and if you would like to sign up to be a judge and read some acclaimed books of literary fiction or nonfiction, then I have a video about how to sign up down below. But anyway, back to The Glass Hotel. Speaking of my author backlist videos, a couple of years ago I read Emily St. John Mandel's backlist, the 3 books that she wrote before Station 11. I'll link that down below too. And I found those books to be kind of middling, nothing like Station 11. And in that vein, I guess The Glass Hotel I also don't think is as good as Station 11, although I think it's a marked improvement. Maybe part of it is my bias, because there's some things that tie into Station 11 in this book. It largely follows a cast of loose characters around that are involved with this man who started a Ponzi scheme, and we follow his wife, who's kind of the main character. We follow him. We follow some of his investors, some of his employees, both at his firm that's doing the illegal Ponzi scheming, and also at a hotel that he owns. It's the Glass Hotel that's referenced in the title. And how all of their lives are affected by this Ponzi scheme, and a lot of them kind of go into alternate reality thinking, which actually I found to be quite intriguing. I mean, just the ways that people use denial and self-pity and regret to sort of fashion alternate realities for themselves. I just thought that was very interesting. I particularly like the storyline of one of the investors, Leon. I think because it reminded me the most of Station 11, because he put all of his savings in this firm and he lost them due to the Ponzi scheme, and so basically he and his wife are, you know, about to lose their home, you know, can't pay for anything, so they decide to go on the road, and they have this RV that they actually bought right before everything went down, and for the next decade at least, they basically live out of their car, traveling and taking odd jobs. And I guess to me this reminded me of the central premise of Station 11, which is after the clouds clear of the Georgian flu, which is like COVID on steroids, my God. You know, the remnants of society that remain basically have to make do in a highly altered world. And I mean, this is, you know, obviously different from what's going on in the Glass Hotel, because the rest of the world is more or less the same, But, you know, their lives are so different because they don't have the security and the money and the jobs that they used to, and they're traveling from place to place to make their living, much like the Shakespeare Traveling Company in Station 11. So I just got those warm, fuzzy vibes from that about, like, you know, missing that old life but also creating something new. Leon also used to work in shipping, and he works with one of the characters from Station 11, Miranda. I guess I should say that technically the Glass Hotel and Station 11 take place in the same universe, except in the Glass Hotel, the Georgian flu was contained quickly. So that society went on and Miranda gets to live, and we get to see her briefly. And I was struck by the fact that she's very similar to the main character in this book, Vincent. I mean, not in this book. In The Glass Hotel, Miranda is a very passing character. But in Station 11, she's this eccentric artist, and then she has a brief celebrity marriage, and then it falls apart and she goes into obscurity. And that's pretty much exactly what Vincent's life is like. You know, she's this eccentric video artist, and then she meets the guy who ran the Ponzi scheme, and she lives the high life for a couple of years until, you know, he's found out and goes to jail. And then she goes ahead and decides to live as a cook on a cruise ship, where ultimately she dies at sea in a mysterious way. So disappearing is something that Mandel has a lot of affinity for, like disappearing lives, disappearing sense of reality, that sort of thing. It comes up in a lot of her books. I think it's interesting. That being said, I don't think I found Vincent to be that interesting. I think she was kind of a chameleon character. She was whatever the plot needed her to be. I don't know. I just wasn't drawn to her. In general, you know, as interested as I was in this book, it was a little dispersed, I guess, and didn't come together in the way that Station 11 had to, because everybody is dealing with this altered reality in a way that's just much more huge than anything could happen with a Ponzi scheme even. So I just feel like something about Station 11 clicked in a way that Mandel's other books haven't, but this one still was pretty good, and it's gotten great reviews from other people. So the second book I read in 2021 is The Mothers by Britt Bennett. I read this for my book club. At the end of each of our book club meetings, my mom and auntie's, honorary auntie's book club, we discuss what we want to read next, and people were mentioning The Vanishing Half, which is Britt Bennett's book that came out last year and is also in contention for the BookTube Prize. It's gotten rave reviews and people were interested to read it. But I figured that unless everyone wanted to buy it, we couldn't, you know, read it for next month because the library holds would be too long. And so I said, well, what about her first book, which I happen to have on my shelves anyway, The Mothers? So I got to remove a book from my shelf, and I actually had to read it pretty quickly because my mother also wants to read a physical copy. So tomorrow I'm headed home to Baltimore. My sister's birthday was earlier in the week, so I'll be going to see the family to celebrate that and to give her this book now that I've finished it. Anyway, ramble. I thought this was a pretty decent book. You know, it got largely positive reviews a few years ago, and it's the sort of story that would catch my attention. It's very interior for the most part, about the lives of these three characters in a small African-American church community in San Diego. We are following two young women, Nadia and Aubrey, who are involved with a young man, Luke, who is the son of a pastor and sort of a golden boy who loses his goldenness when he was a football star who had a major injury, lost his college scholarship and a lot of his future plans for himself. And the two women are involved with him, you know, romantically or sexually at different times in different ways. There's issues in here about motherhood and being daughters and being mothers and abortion and following through with pregnancy and all of that stuff. I really like the idea of motherhood. Not so much, I guess, the mothers in here actually is the church community of ladies, and I felt like they were a little too outsized, that Bennett did more work in the story with developing like a sense of the community of the church, which I liked, but I felt like the real impetus of the story was the internal stuff happening with these three characters. They both had like internal drama going on, or they all three had internal drama going on, and I don't feel like they had much of an arc a place that they got to that was much different at the end of the story. Like, it just sort of ended in a way. But I was still very intrigued by them as characters, and there's certainly a lot of book clubbish stuff that happens in this book that we'll certainly be talking about, I think, in a week. So yeah, maybe that's a little vague, certainly non-spoilery, I guess. So I would still suggest that if you're interested in character studies, at least in the development or presentation of characters from beginning to middle of story, you'll get a lot out of this. And also just some of the world building around this church community too is also pretty compelling. Next on the docket, I have this book. This is One More River by Mary Glickman, which I showed in my recent December book haul. This is a book that's been on my Goodreads TBR for a long time, and it's finally gotten up to the top of the list. It's one of 6 Jewish-themed books that I'm hoping to read this year. I'll be reading more than just 6, I'm sure, but the 6 at the top of Goodreads. But anyway, I gave only a vague synopsis of what this book is about in the haul, so in this video I will read from the back. Bernard Levy was always a mystery to the community of Guilford, Mississippi. He was even more of a mystery to his son, Mickey Moe, who was just 4 years old when his father died in World War II. Now it's 1962, and Mickey Moe is a grown man who must prove his pedigree to the disapproving parents of his girlfriend, Laura Ann Needleman, to win her hand in marriage. With only a few decades-old leads to go on, Mickey Moe sets off to uncover his father's murky past, from his travels up and down the length of the Mississippi River to his heart-rending adventures during the Great Flood of 1927. Mickey Moe's journey, taken at the dawn of the Civil Rights era, leads him deep into the backwoods of Mississippi and Tennessee, where he meets with danger and unexpected revelations at every turn. As the greatest challenge of his life unfolds, he will finally discover the gripping details of his father's life, one filled with loyalty, tragedy, and heroism in the face of great cruelty from man and nature alike. A captivating follow-up to Mary Glickman's best-selling Home in the Morning, One More River tells the epic tale of ordinary men caught up in the grip of calamity and inspired to extraordinary acts in the name of love. So yeah, I'm hoping that it won't be detrimental that I haven't read the first book. Maybe they're sort of connected more loosely than that, and that this is self-contained in and of itself, but I am intrigued. You know, this is historical fiction. It's in an era that I guess I'm not quite as familiar with, and also a location I'm not quite as familiar with in America, especially in Jewish America, because I am banking on Jewish connections in this National Jewish Book Award finalist book. So yeah, I'll give my thoughts next week. Stay tuned. So that about covers it for me now, and speaking of the National Jewish Book Awards, I should be back on this channel within a couple of days because the 2020 winners and runners-up of that award will be announced, and I'm sure I'll have some things to say about them. This has been a rather weird and awfully trying week. I spoke in my Toni Morrison video yesterday about the riots and the insurrection going on at Capitol Hill. I work in Capitol Hill and decided early in the morning not to report to work because my family had already expressed concerns, and I was concerned about some of the early news articles about, you know, people gathering early in the morning in DC. And I'm certainly glad I didn't, because things turned out to be a lot crazier than I think anyone anticipated, including my workspace, which was open, but they ended up having to do some sheltering in place for a while because of what was going on. And then for the rest of the week, work was closed. And I'm just hoping that things will be back to normal enough and you know, secure and safe enough on Monday to resume normal operations. So yeah, that has been a lot of my week. Though it ended on a happy note, an optimistic note, because Friday morning I had a short story published. My short story Jewish Adult, which has been out on submission on and off for a year and a half, found a home at Sad Girls Club, a literary blog. But anyway, I'm just so excited, and I will link down below to my announcement and to the story itself. So yeah, I guess I rambled on long enough here. Hope you are all having a safe and happy weekend full of reading and whatever else would bring you joy. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.